Well, very good. Well, let me just say thank you to you for the opportunity to be here and present to this group. I recognize you as, some of the top agents within Coldwell Banker, and most certainly a very productive office and in your own right. So there's lots of ways to skin the cat. What I want to go through today is just some of the things that I've done to be successful in my market, things that I hope might be beneficial to you. Maybe there's some tidbits of some of these things, and I'm going to kind of break it down, and then also talk about the integration and why I think some of these things are key. So I'm excited to talk to you today and present with Shelby. And as you probably know, we formed a company a few years ago called Real Estate System Secrets, and really trying to help other agents and kind of pivoted to a done-for-you program. So some of the things we're going to talk about today that I use in my business, we're helping other agents like Jeff and others, and we're happy to talk to you about that. But my goal today is really for you to understand some of the things, what those systems are, and how you might be able to implement those in your market. At the end, Shelby's going to get you your own copy of the book, Digital Niche Marketing Systems, that Jeff held up a minute ago. And so here's kind of the goals that I have for today, is to help you, serve you, have you think differently about your real estate business. And in order to do that, maybe plan, prioritize, and pivot a little bit. Some of the things that you're doing, especially now at the beginning of the year, I always kind of look out at this time of the year at what I'm doing, what I can do differently, how I can look backwards to look forwards, and then answer any of your questions. I'm happy to stay on as long as you want. So I think as we look at our businesses as real estate agents, we need to wake up every day and realize that we're just like any other business. We're a small business, and we need to do marketing to help generate new leads and new clients, just like any business does. The majority of real estate agents that are seasoned and experienced still struggle to have consistency in their lead generation. And I think technology is one way that can be really helpful in closing that gap and giving you that consistency that you desire. So I think we got about 40 minutes. Is that accurate, or do I have less? Now I can't hear you. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say 30 to 40 is right in there.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll try to go quickly. Maybe if you want to stop me at some point and say, hey, please explain that, or share your comments or questions at the end, we can do that. But anyway, I'm going to go through my framework and exactly what I'm doing, and that you can copy. So I'm going to be a little transparent just real quickly. I'm a proud husband and father, 3 daughters. Shelby is our oldest daughter. Been in the top 1% as a Coldwell Banker agent for now going on over 8 years. Global luxury specialist. I live and work in a small market. And I became pretty successful at a short period of time. I started in 2009, the height of the recession. And within 3 years, I was in the top 10 in my market. The 4th year, I was the #1 agent in my market. And every year since, I've been in the top 3 to 5 agents in my market. And so I started with over 30 years of sales and marketing experience before I became a real estate agent. And most of that was in tech startups. And so what I've kind of looked at, one of the things I really am proud of, that I've been able to attract affluent clients, the target demographic, the dream clients that I want to contact me. And so I've been doing that through systems. So if I kind of go back and look at the beginning of 2020 or the middle of 2020, it was crazy, right? So as we all know, this thing really turned on in about March in my market. March 14th, I think, Vail shut down, Crested Butte, and my wife and I went to a party on the 7th. And by the 14th, we had both were under the influence of COVID. We had COVID. And so I had it back in March. It was terrible for about a week to 10 days and then another 2 weeks. But, what happened to my business was that our county said no more visitors can come. In fact, they even said if you're a second homeowner and you're here, you have to leave, which really pissed off a lot of my clients and the demographic that I do business with. The affluent clients were, and some of them were, there was a client of mine actually that went to Baylor, University of Baylor, and contacted the guy that's now the secretary or the head legal counsel, the attorney general for Texas, wrote a brief and a case to like sue the state of Colorado. So there was all this stuff going on that was, I knew about kind of behind the scenes that was in Crested Butte. But anyway, long story short, we were shut down for 75 days, almost 90 days here before people were allowed to come back. So I did about $6.5 million for the first quarter. And then, it was like no transactions, no buyers. We couldn't do showings. You guys know about all the restrictions we had with COVID, and it turned back on in the beginning of June. And, it was craziness. And because of the systems I have in place and the things that I'm doing, I was able to handle that. At one point, I had 20 properties under contract, and the net result was in that period of about 36 million, and a bunch of stuff that came into 2021 as well. That I'm still very busy, but overall in 2020, 42 sides, 42 million, over $1.1 million in gross commission income. And I say that again to be totally transparent. I know there's other agents probably on this call that have exceeded those numbers or those expectations, and all the power to you. So I just, can only look at my market, my business that represents around 7% market share in my market. And so I'm very proud of that, but also realize, gosh, there's agents in other markets that do bigger transactions, do more transactions. So anyway, I'm that's kind of my business for 2020. So what did I do to be consistent, to attract and serve my dream clients, both buyers and sellers? And if you're saying, I want consistency in my business, I want to create systems that, can generate new leads, then you're in the right place. That's what we're going to talk about. And I believe the only way to do that and have a sustainable real estate business is to have repeatable lead gen systems to attract those dream clients. And the way to do that is to get your dream clients to contact you, to align with them, to be doing niche marketing and leveraging technology to do that. So as we know, the National Association of Realtors tells us 90% of buyers and sellers are looking online prior to buying and selling. And the majority still, the stats show us, majority, over 70% of real estate agents, even seasoned agents, do not leverage current technology and a website and social media effectively generate leads. And I'm going to talk about effectively in a second what that means, because a lot of times we talk to agents about what their business is and how they're generating leads and how they're marketing, what they're doing, what their focus is. They may have a checkbox on some of these things, but when we dig down and we look at, what the content is that they're creating and what their website is doing, it's pointing to external, sites. They're not keeping people on their site very long. They don't have lead gen tools that will attract those dream clients. There's not calls to action. There's not automated email responses, a lot of these different things. So integration is key, and it's the extra 1%. It's the extra mile, the glue that holds all this stuff together. Good quote from Zig Ziglar. There's no traffic jams on the extra mile. So there might be, look at this, we kind of call this the wheel of the integrated digital marketing. There might be some of these things that you're doing, and we're going to dive into some of those a little bit deeper. But what we don't want you to do is say, oh yeah, I have a website. There's an agent, for example, said, no, we get these, and all the power to the brokerage or Coldwell Banker, the mothership for creating content. But if you just repurpose that content on your blog or on your social media, and it actually links them back to the brokerage website or back to the global luxury site, and people don't stay on your site, then you've lost them. They're gone. So you got them to your website because you put something in social media, and maybe it was a blog post, but then they go, oh, I want to learn more about that. Or they click on that video, and boom, they're now off onto a different website, and you just lost their attention. So this is part of the stuff that gets into the nuances. We're not going to go into all that detail today, but I just use that as an example. So the question is, if you think yes or no, leveraging technology is more or less important now or before COVID. And then if you think it's going to be more or less important now versus tomorrow or next month or next year. And so I think we'd all agree, technology is not going away. The internet, social media, the importance, it's all about how do you figure this out and use it as a tool that you can be effective to attract your dream clients and serve your existing clients better. Do a better job of nurturing them and converting them from prospective clients to clients, right? So the answer is yes, technology is changing. It's changing how we live, how we shop, how we communicate, how we market. Problem or opportunity. Most real estate agents are frozen because they're not certain what exactly to do. What's the blueprint? What's the roadmap? What's the recipe to success? And so what we do know is that we still are in a world where most people don't trust us. That's a fact, right? 67% of the general public don't trust us as real estate agents. They're not sure. So one of our goals is to endear them to get to know, like, and trust us, right? And we can use marketing to help build trust so that we can generate new clients and retain the ones that we have. And I put have in quotes because the other stat, and I'll talk about it in a second, 80% of all sellers don't use the same agent that they use to buy the home. So we think we have these clients. Maybe they're on your database and your list, you're marketing to them, but the reality is there's a 20% chance they're going to use you, 80% chance they may not, unless you're doing the things you need to be doing to build the trust. And using marketing and technology can help you build trust with those existing clients and to attract new clients. So I'll use a quick example. When I first got my real estate license, and a lot of people talk about, oh, they're in my sphere, so they're good. They're going to be my client. And I had my sister-in-law contact me, said, hey, there's a gal on our tennis team in Dallas, and she wants to buy a house in Crested Butte, and she has a lot of money, and she's, was just there for a week, and she loved it. And, so I gave her your name, and I'm like, great. And I got her contact, and I called, and I texted, and I emailed, and I wrote a handwritten note, all these things. So if you looked at the sphere of influence, check marks, it was all there. We were actually members in Dallas of the same country club. My wife played tennis with this woman, in the tennis league, TCD tennis league. So we had all these things of familiarity. They knew me, they liked me, but I didn't win the business, right? And they bought a $2.2 million house. And that's the good news, bad news. The good news is, they did buy something. The bad news was they didn't use me. And I looked at what, and I was really crushed by this because it was, something I thought was going to launch my career as a real estate agent in Crested Butte. And I thought, gosh, this would have been a perfect, scenario. Long story short, they knew me and liked me, but they didn't trust me as a real estate agent. It was all about me. I was calling and soliciting. I was doing all that stuff. And I know, there are people that have success doing outbound soliciting. And so what I started from that learning was, I didn't demonstrate my expertise, my authority, my credibility as a real estate agent to serve the dream client. I didn't generate trust. And so it was all about soliciting for me and trying to give them the reasons they should use me versus the reasons that I was going to help them to find their dream home and help negotiate and acquire that. So remember that 67% of all our prospective clients only contact one agent. 80% of sellers don't use the same agent. And that was a big epiphany for me. I said, okay, I want to be that one agent that's top of mind, that's a trusted authority. And if I just can do that, then when I show up, if I'm at least average, I'm going to get my fair share because I've already, kind of gotten over those hurdles. So I went back and started studying direct marketing principles. I was a marketing major from Ohio State, and I really spent a majority of my career in sales and sales management, but marketing was a big part of the technology startup businesses that I was in. I started a billboard business. I still have some of those assets today and was able to leverage marketing in each of my, prior careers to be successful. And I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out and go back and look at more I was doing a lot of business to business transactions previously, but I really started studying consumer direct marketing principles. And what I realized was that we really need to earn that trust. We need to be found by 90% of the buyers and sellers who are searching online. We need to be the expert, and we need to create premium content that demonstrates our level of expertise and authority when they find us. Or even if they don't find us online, if we meet them at a party, we're referred to them, believe me, they are going to go and check you out online. They're going to go see, well, who is this Chris Koff guy? Who is this person? And if they don't, think that they align with you, if they don't get some warm and fuzzy from your digital footprint, then you probably lost them. And so you probably had that where it might have been a referral or somebody, and you called, and for some reason they just didn't call you back, right? And we sort of fall into that gap of, oh well, they probably are doing business with somebody else, and that's the reason you didn't ever contact them. So this was my epiphany: to be found, to build trust, become an expert, and be that one agent. I need to do the things differently by niching down and giving value where my clients are looking online and offline. And I want to emphasize today we're focusing really on the digital side. There's a offline side really as well. Unfortunately, because of COVID, most of that has been shut down. So the value of this has even increased more because we're having to do business differently. Even though we might have been doing business online or using technology before, we were still like in the community and doing things and showing up in our community physically, face to face at gala events or in the community at different things and doing business physically. Now we're subject to not being able to do that as much. So that's one of the reasons the pendulum swung. So website, blog, social media, email, newsletter, market report are very, very important going forward. And I think one-to-one versus one-to-many, not the way to go. I'd rather take my time and effort and be efficient and create some premium content that I can use over and over and over. I'll just use one example in my market. And I talked to Mark when Shelby and I were on the phone the other day, and I'll relate it to this. But I have an article on my website that I've written. If you're a second homeowner in Colorado and you sell your home, 2% of the proceeds from the home are retained by the Colorado Department of Revenue. Okay, they're taxing you on the net gain of that transaction. Okay, just like the IRS would tax you on like a long-term capital gains. Most second homeowners don't understand that. And there's a lot of confusion about that because the title company is not going to do any bookkeeping around the basis that the person has in the home. So let's just use round numbers. If you bought a home for $1 million and now you're selling it for $2 million and you have $1 million of net gain, the Colorado Department of Revenue they're going to extract $20,000, 2% of that gain, and you're going to be taxed on that. Guess what the title company does? They say, oh no, well, we don't do any bookkeeping. So 2% of the purchase price of $2 million or $40,000 is going to be sent to the Colorado Department of Revenue. And then the seller needs to file a return to go get their money back. Or they can sign this affidavit that says that they're going to file separately and they don't have $40,000 in tax. They only have a smaller amount. And so anyway, long story short, I wrote an article about that. Mark and Shelby and I talked about the gap, the appraisal gap that is very important in your market, in all of our market, in a rising market. Sometimes there's a difference between the sales price and what the appraised value is, right? And when we go under contract, we want the buyer and seller to both understand that in the event the appraisal comes back and it's lower than what the loan to value ratio is, and that the buyer's not going to just all of a sudden say, oh, Mr. Seller, we want you to kick in the difference between the appraised value and the sales price. I had 2 transactions this summer. One was $150,000 above, one was $300,000 above. This very close to my heart because I had to explain to the buyer in an ascending market what was going on and why this was important. So if that's something that's important in your market, and I'm spending too much time on this, but you should be creating premium content on that so that you can send that link on your website, on your blog post, in social media. You can put that out so people understand that concept, because the general public doesn't know what the appraisal gap means. They have no idea. So you can define it. You can be the one who tells the story about what that means and why it's important to buyers and why it's important to sellers and how they need to understand that going in. When you write an article, you know, you sort of step out of your body as a third party now when you send an email to somebody, because a buyer is going to be like all upset that the seller doesn't want to contribute money to close that gap, right? And the seller's like, well, screw that. There's, you know, we had like a bunch of other buyers in line to buy this property. If that buyer doesn't want it, we'll sell it to somebody else. So you got to explain that whole thing. And this is an example of one-to-many marketing, where you put out content like that, you're reaching tons of people. And some people might find you because you wrote that article because they're searching on that, right? And I think that, and I know there's people like Karen Bernardi in Boulder that do a lot of soliciting, and that's the key to her success. Just not something that I want to do in my business every single day. And I think systems to deliver steady, affluent clients using premium content and leveraging technology is the way to go. So that's where we're going to go. So number one secret, we're going to talk about identifying your dream client, then focusing your niche marketing on them, building a digital footprint, publishing that premium content, building your list. So what is niche marketing? When I talk about that, what I think about is who are your dream clients that you want to do business with? And I'll use Jeff as an example, and Ryan and their team. And they've decided they don't really want to market to people that are below a threshold of $750,000 in their market. So we're helping them with a market report. They're reporting only on the luxury segment of the market. And I really think that is very wise and respectful. In my market, I don't really do any business in Gunnison. It's only 28 miles from my house to Gunnison, Colorado. I have done transactions there, but I don't market to that market. I have clients that say, would you please help me? I have a family member, I have a friend, I have a referral for you. And depending on the situation, I might refer the business out. I might co-list that with another agent in Coldwell Banker office in Gunnison. I might not say, I'm sorry, it's just not something I'm focused on because I can't serve the client at the level that I want to. And if I take on a listing in Gunnison and I have to go open the home and turn on the lights and accompany in the showing, but it's an hour and a half, 2 hour round trip, it may not be the best use of my time. And so I think it's super important to understand who you want to do business with, the socioeconomic demographic, and then where they are located. So if you first say, who are and this is key for all direct marketing strategies, whether you're Procter & Gamble, you're a real estate agent, right? It's who are we doing business with? What are the things that are important to them? How do we connect with them? How do we align with them? You know, if you watch any of the Super Bowl ads, you open a magazine and you look at any, advertisement, it's all about trying to connect with that dream client. And then in our business, real estate, geographic location, super duper important for where we're doing business. Where are those people that we want to do business with interested in buying and selling, or where do they want to live? And what's specific about those areas that they want to live in? The luxury communities, the gated communities, the country clubs, the public schools, what are the private schools? What are the nonprofits that are in those areas? So understanding your market, and then how do you leverage the what and the how with integrated niche marketing to be able to reach those prospective dream clients and create premium content around the questions that they have about those markets. Believe me, if they're saying, hey, I want to live in, Castle Pines, it's like, well, why do you want to live there? What's important? What's good about, if someone calls you on the phone and they say, what's good about, Parker versus this area in Castle Pines, or this specific subdivision versus that, or this school district versus this school district, or this private school versus that private school. What are your answers when you're talking on the phone to those people? Think about the questions they're asking you. Those are the things that you want to be publishing, and the premium content you want to duplicate so you can be efficient with your time. So you don't have to, write that email 17 times this month. to people. It's like, no, I have an article about that. Let me just send you the link. You could be on your phone and you could literally send them the link from your phone. Good question. And I listen to your voicemail. I can call you in 2 hours. Let me send you this article. And then when you talk to them, they're all warmed up and they're like, wow, that was an awesome article. You're really an expert. You really understand the intricacies of my question and what I'm looking for, or why I'm trying to sell, or why people want to buy in this market. You understand my subdivision, my market. I want to use you as our agent. So if you define who your dream client is, where they are, right? Who has them today? What I mean by that, and we're going to talk about this, birds of a feather flock together. We talk about the luminary list is what I call it, or who are just use an example. If they're a member of a country club, right? The country club has the database of all those people, right? If they're members of a nonprofit, if they're members of the Rotary Club, if they're members of, think about the big nonprofits that have the gala events and hundreds of people pay, hundreds of dollars to attend that gala event. And there's a live auction and, they raffle off, very expensive things and they raise millions of dollars. Where are those nonprofits that are showing up in your market, in your niche? And how do you integrate and figure out who the luminaries are that have the list of all those people? What things can you do to give them value, right? How can you serve them? So go there physically and online and give them what they want, value, right? So your monthly market report, we'll talk about that quick. This gets back to the who and the where, right? Is you're creating a monthly market report that's specific on your geographic area, because the number one question the general public has is, how's the real estate market doing, right? And what they're really saying is, how's the real estate market in Crested Butte, in your specific geographic area that you're doing business in? And if you don't have a good answer to that, if you don't have already preparing that on a consistent basis, and they're going to research you, then they may not believe that or if you're just putting out a general thing from RE Colorado that's on the Denver metropolitan real estate statistics, but it's not niched down to your specific area and your subdivisions in your area, the luxury markets in your area, then you're probably not answering that question effectively for that prospective buyer or seller, right? So how you answer it differentiates you from the pack. It's one of those 1% things, or the extra mile Zig Ziglar talks about. It's the thing that is going to attract the dream clients that you want to do business with. And if you can then also be on the phone and answer that confidently and intelligently, because you have this tool, this market report that you're doing every single month, then you're going to attract those people that want to do business with you, right? And so premium content, I always say, I'm a big fly fisherman, so go fish in the pond where your dream clients are hanging out, right? So if you go in that specific area and you create premium content about them, and then you market that, they're going to find that content, whether that's on social media, on your website, different places. When I get a call from somebody and it's a new lead, immediately I'm sending them a follow-up email and saying, hey, here's my market report, here's my newsletter, here's some information, and they're like, wow, this is impressive stuff. And so I'll use an example of how this, really worked in this scenario. And I have many similar examples, but I was sitting down with this prospective dream client. I came into their dining room, beautiful luxury home. Anyway, the wife was sitting across the table and she had her arms crossed, and she looked at me before we sat down, and he was here and she was there across the table, which, if you're familiar with visual cues and her body language, and she said, you wouldn't even be here if it weren't for him. And so I looked at him and I said, well, why is that? And then she answered for him and said, well, it's because of your market report. And, obviously she wanted to use a different real estate agent. And he chimed in and said, well, I've been getting your market report newsletter. I don't know how I got on your list, but I really appreciate the level of detail, and we're going to use you as our real estate agent. And so here I had prepared, this was fairly early on in my career, and I had prepared a ton of stuff, like why you should use me and why you should use Coldwell Banker and all this stuff, right? Global luxury. I wasn't even a global luxury agent at the time. But long story short, what happened, right? I demonstrated my expertise and authority, my credibility as a real estate agent before I even showed up, before I got there, because they were receiving my newsletter market report. They had gone online and looked at me, right? And so the result of this was a $1.85 million transaction plus over $4.5 million or almost $4.5 million in total business, because I was a good marketer of me and I attracted my dream client. They are a luminary in my community. And because of them, I was able to attract additional people that followed their lead, right? Because this client used me, other people saw that and took notice and said, well, we want to use Chris Koff as well. And so I was able to build quite a bit of business because of this one client. Now, one of the reasons I always say, you're just one affluent client away. You never know who that affluent client is that's an influencer in your community that's going to be a domino effect to other business. So my epiphany was, whoa, this is really an example of how this is working for me to be the expert and to publish up front and to build that trust. So the niche market report makes you the expert and gives you authority. Now, let me just digress for a second, because there's some brokerages. Our brokerage in Crested Butte creates a market report. If your brokerage does, great, but I still think that, you know, there's 100 other agents or 200 other agents in your market that may be using that same thing. So to differentiate yourself, to have your own market report that you use, and you might create this, leveraging the stuff that's already being done for you. You could contact us because we do these kind of things as well. There's other services you might look at that, but I would encourage you to really think about this as a key component, because it is the reason we put it in the middle of the wheel. Okay. Your monthly newsletter is a delivery mechanism for a lot of different things: your market report, your listings, your blog post, your videos, whatever content you want to put there. But it's a way for you to touch every single month the people that you want to do business with. You're cultivating and nurturing those leads of people that are prospective buyers or sellers, and the people that you've already done business with. You're keeping them informed because the stats in your market. Every 6 to 7 years they're going to upgrade or move or change, or whatever the numbers are. Maybe it's more frequent now. I know it was 6 to 7 years in most metropolitan markets, but you want to keep them informed. You want to focus on your digital footprint, and that's things like your blog post that's on your website. And I'll just use this example. We had an agent said, well, no, I have a blog post, and I have this service that's doing that for me. And we went and looked at all the content, and none of it was being curated by this agent. It was all third-party stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great, but they're linking to Inman's report, and they're going to realtor.com, and they're going to your brokerage website. They're going to the Global Luxury Web. None of this content is keeping them on your site, and you didn't write it. So even if you take content that's being curated by Coldwell Banker or Global Luxury, you should comment, be the reporter, hold your microphone and say, hey, and write some information about this. Hey, I think this is really important for the, your market, because what we've seen in our market based on the patterns and trends is this and this and this. And, this talks to the luxury segment of our market, and we're seeing the same thing. In fact, and then tell a story, but then reference the articles, right? So it doesn't mean you can't use that content. It's no good. No, that's great that you have access to stuff, but you keep them on your website. Doesn't mean that you have to just put a link there that takes them somewhere else. You could get a copy of the PDF and put it on your Google Drive. And so people are downloading that PDF from your site instead of going to the Coldwell Banker Global Luxury site to get that content. Does that make sense? So you want to be publishing. It's helped me literally obtain over $100 million. I think it's probably way bigger than that. But so where do you publish it? Website, blog, social media, email, newsletter, market report, and you repurpose this content in all these different places. So if you look at this wheel, right, you have your lead gen website. So there's different things called call to action. Your premium content is on there. Your blog is on there. When someone gets a list, I'll use an example. You go to my website, chriskoff.com, you'll see a ton of examples of this. And there's ways that you can make blog posts sticky, so they always are at the top. I have a listing for a new development called Aspen Ridge. Their home sites between 700 and 1,250,000. And so, people opt in to get the premium content. They'll get a brochure, they'll get a price list, they'll get I think there's a parcel map or something. And when they do that, they opt in, they give their email address, and then they get an email with the link to get that content, right? But I've now captured their contact information. So the same thing for your property valuation report or CMA, for your market report, to get on your newsletter. If they're a buyer, if they're curious about you have a buyer's guide or a seller's guide, right? So you want to publish all these things and what we call this lead magnet funnel. So you have all these buyers and seller leads based on these different mechanisms to get into your database and build your list, right? So what do you want to publish? You want to leverage your passion as well. And I'm going to go through this quick because I know I'm running out of time. But I believe that it's important to think about the things that you like to do, things that align with your dream clients, and that Venn diagram where those intersect, and figure out how you can publish premium content. And I won't spend a bunch of time on this, but because I am an avid fly fisherman, and because there's not too many other real estate agents that know how to fly fish, when I speak to a real estate prospect, whether it's a buyer or seller, about property in my market that has a river or a stream or a lake or a pond or something that has trout in it, I immediately connect with them. I'm aligning with them, and I am I'm able to talk intelligently, not just about the fly fishing, but the real estate and the fly fishing combined. Okay, so it works well. But this could be for you. You could be an avid photographer. You could be, in your former life, maybe you're a contractor and you know all about the intricacies, nuts and bolts of a kitchen remodel. You could be somebody that had a legal background, and so the contracts and areas of risk for people, because the contracts are somewhat gray in certain areas, or the appraisal gap, or different things, or because you're a member of a nonprofit and you're giving back in the community, you're participating with things Coldwell Banker's doing to give back in the community. Whatever those things are where you're aligning with the dream client, those are great examples of ways that you can build trust. And I've sold a ton of real estate because of my passion as a fly fishing, and I get to live the dream. I take clients, I go do that. It might be hiking or skiing or mountain biking for you. It might be helping at the food bank, whatever. If these are things where you find your affluent dream clients are hanging out, and that's something that you're kind of interested in, you might consider making that a passion, because it'll be part of that Venn diagram, right? So video platform and training, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but it's kind of part of the next thing I'm going to talk about. And I do these video interviews. It's been harder because of COVID, but and I get behind on doing them. But whenever I do, try and do this, I did this with Rick Mackley. If you ever used Rick Mackley at Rockin' Media, and now I do it now by myself, just because I don't have Rick coming in here as much. I bring him in here for special projects, but you can use an iPhone 12. You can get a lapel mics, or you can use the microphone on this are really good, and set it up on a tripod and do a video interview. And you're now aligning with the dream clients. You can interview the executive director for the nonprofit. You can interview somebody in the middle right there. This is a video with me with this gal, Kylina. She owns 2 restaurants in town. She's a go-getter. It just so happens I represented her and her husband on a purchase of a lot, but that was like 3 years after I did that video. But when I did that video, somebody saw that video, within 2 days called me, and I got a listing for this home over $2 million. And because of that transaction, there was a number of other a number of other sellers that I was able to attract. So let me talk about this notion of luminary lists. And I have, anytime you see the word secret, this is something I think is very, very key. things that you should be doing. When I talk about these luminaries sitting on top of this box, remember I said, the head pro at the golf course, the tennis professional, the general manager at the country club, the executive director for the nonprofit, the business owner where everybody wants to go dine, right? The luxury steakhouse in Denver. It could be the chef or the business owner that's the luminary, but it's a place where people go to enjoy themselves and to be seen and to socialize with other people that are in their same socioeconomic demographic, right? And then when you break it down into your niche market and your target area, then you even get more specialized. So think about those places and who those luminaries are. And if you could be seen in a video interviewing those people, then you're aligning with your dream clients because they see you with that luminary, right? And they may say, well, why is Chris Koff talking to this person? And let me click on that YouTube video, right? It could be a builder, it could be an architect, it could be an interior designer. And now you're creating premium content. We can transcribe that premium content, and you can use that in a blog post. You can use it in social media. You can take this video, repurpose it on Facebook and Instagram, and you can put it on LinkedIn. You can put it on your blog post, on your website. You can, somebody might ask you a question about, why do I want to be in Castle Pines? Well, I talked to this specific subdivision that's a gated community. I just met with the president of the HOA, and they're adding a whole different, phase 4 to the development. They're really excited about this new luxury estate segment of the subdivision, and I interviewed him about that. I also wrote an article because I met with 3 different architects that are designing homes in there, and there's 10 different builders that are going to be building spec homes in there. And now all of a sudden you're an expert on this, thing that people are curious about, and you have video content, you have audio content, you have written blog content, you repurpose this, and now you're the expert. You're creating the premium content that goes in your newsletter, and now people say, and it kind of turns around too, because I've also done in Dallas, I didn't do it last year, but for 10 years in a row until COVID, I brought an executive director from a nonprofit or a luminary in my market. I did an event in Dallas, and that cost me between $5,000 and $7,000. I would rent the ballroom at the Royal Oaks Country Club, bring the luminary in, and I would have 75 to 90 people that are socioeconomics, remember my dream clients, in this one room. And it wasn't the Chris Koff real estate show. I got up, we did a cocktail party, and then I got on the microphone. I said, hey, I'm super excited that you're all here. I want to just tell you that I really appreciate many faces I see in the audience here are clients, and I appreciate that. I appreciate all the referrals. Let me just spend 3 minutes talking about the real estate market. That I want to introduce our speaker, blah, 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 blah. The speaker talks about Crested Butte and the new capital campaign they have or whatever. And I tell them, just kind of, dumb it down a little bit. We don't want to do a hard sell, but, I want you to get exposure. People are coming to me to get access to my list. They want to be on the stage in Dallas, Texas, where I'm putting on this show and I'm bringing these people in. The same thing. They want to do those video interviews because they know that my email list is over 3,000 people when I send these out, right? And so the video, the social media, it all is integrated together, as I said. So now I'm going to stop, and I probably went over a little bit, but I hope that was beneficial. That was about 40 minutes. And I know it's like drinking from a fire hose, lots of stuff, and I can get way, way, way deeper. But if you want to do a Q&A, we can talk about that. I have a couple extra slides, but where do you want to go from here, Mark?
So Chris, thank you. Number one, we're coming up on the end of the hour, and I got to tell you, I unfortunately, I teach a class at 9:30, so I'm going to have to drop off. I know that there are a couple of people still on, and I think your presentation has been great with a ton of information, and has also been recorded for some of the people that weren't able to make the call. I will make it available to them as well. When I drop off, I think this meeting is going to continue. Right. So I know there are just a couple people, and like Michael, who's been on the call, I'm not sure he has access to his, I know he's been listening, but he was on mute. He warned me about that early on. So
yeah, Mark,
you guys have any questions for Chris just here at the end of the hour?
No, I like what I heard so far, and it gives you motivation, and I like it. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. My pleasure.
I did have a question for Mark, and I wanted to know, with this new invention with this Zillow world, how do you feel about that? That's what I was asking Mark earlier today.
What specifically? Their acquisition of showing time, or their just continual?
Yes.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that they will have access to all of your potential clients that you're going to put into their system, and that's kind of a dangerous hot rock to walk on.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've seen an evolution of different players, the landscape changing, different competitors. There's definitely some new brokerages, that have popped up that are, stating that they're the technology brokerages and they're going to, crush us. And, we've seen different platforms and different players. I'm definitely nervous about it because, let's face it, they already have probably more people looking at their site, in the last 45 minutes we've been on this than we'll ever have in our entire lifetimes or careers. And so there's it just depends what they're going to do with that. If we, I think this is one of the reasons you got to create a defensible position in your market, and people need to look at you and say, why should I use you as a real estate agent? Why, as a seller, do I need to pay you this commission? Because these guys are a discount brokerage and they're going to do it for less, right? And so this is part of your defensible position. The things I'm talking about today, it's like, well, it's because of, I understand your market. I understand this community. I have a database of thousands of people. I am an expert. I'm going to help you navigate this. This is going to be a smooth transaction. You can go build your own house. You don't have to be, hiring a general contractor. Do you think you know how to do all those things? Well, no. What's your business? And then try and relate it to them and say, well, there's lots of other companies out there like Zillow that offer different services, and for certain things, it's a great service. They have acquired some technology. I'm as worried about Amazon getting in the real estate business as I am Zillow. So who knows? But I think we're always going to be in a relationship business. It's a very emotional thing. It's not necessarily like buying or selling a stock. And so, we're still dealing with people's money, but they're home where they want to be, getting the keys, getting in there, understanding. In my market, I know, who the builders are, who the architects are, so when we go into a house, I might already know who built this home, when it was constructed, when they did the addition. I do my research, and those are things that you just can't put in a database. That, your personal experience and knowledge is going to help you to be head and shoulders above other agents and other platforms. So that's kind of my answer in a nutshell.
Great. That's very good. That gives me it's words of wisdom, because bottom line is you got to sell yourself. You don't sell the Zillow's going to sell itself, but you've got to sell yourself.
Right. Yeah. And so that's kind of leads me to this slide. Can you still see my screen?
I can.
And that's kind of I'm sure you've been on 100 webinars and you've listened to lots of different people. And I would encourage you to say, all right, what's the next little step I can take to start doing some of this stuff, whatever it is. If you continue to do business the way you've done business, and we see changes in the landscape, like the, Zillow acquisitions and, new brokerages and discount brokerages and other new agents come into our market, or we're looking at different things happening, then if you're not evolving, if you're not changing, if you're not leveraging technology better and trying to be better, faster, and serve your client, always with the focus on serving your client, and you don't take action, then shame on you, right? So I think if you publish, you'll establish yourself. If you say, well, this worked for me, when's the best time to plant a tree? I've made a ton of mistakes to get to this point, and I just get to this slide that just, it's like, what's one additional transaction worth? Sometimes people are like, well, I just have all these different things. I'm scattered. I don't know. And I just say, well, what's your business? If you just take a $500,000 transaction or $1 million transaction, your gross commission income on that, is going to be, $15,000 to $30,000 based on, if it's 750 or $1 million. If it's $1 million, it's a 3% transaction. You're 33. If you're 2.8, you just do the math in your market and say, okay, if I just was able to leverage this and take this that Chris is talking about and do one more transaction, what would that mean to my business? And your options are, you could do it yourself. You could figure this out. You could go through all the time and effort. You could hire an assistant. You might have an assistant to refocus on this stuff. And I've hired virtual assistants. I've had physical assistants. You could piecemeal it and go and try and do this yourself. We do have a done for you program. You could contact us, and we do all this stuff as well. So this is the last slide that we have. But if you're interested in learning more about how we might be able to help you, you want to get a copy of the book, you can go to this website. I think Shelby might be able to put it in the chat window. I don't know, but or you can just text Shelby your name to the phone number there. That's her cell phone, and we'll get your information and get you a copy of the book. As I said to Mark, we're not having any webinars or presentations for real estate system secrets or what I'm doing with any other people other than Coldwell Banker agents. Okay. I have no interest in, helping Sotheby's be more successful in your market. I'm trying to say, hey, how can I help other Coldwell Banker agents based on what I've done and what Shelby and I have been able to accomplish and put together? And how can we help other people just like you that are in the Coldwell Banker umbrella? And so if this is of interest to you, awesome. If you just want to get the book and take it from there, that's great. And, but we appreciate the opportunity to help you however we can and serve you to be more successful in your business.
Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will definitely do that.
Hi, Chris. It's Marcus Harris. I just have a quick question for you, if you have time.
Shoot.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know if you could hear. So it seems to me, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but your approach to marketing is most likely going to be successful with more of a luxury market. Is that right? Like, I know Jeff and Ryan are targeting 750 and above, and I think that that's where it's going to be. That's where you're going to see the most success. Is that true?
No, I don't think so. I think these principles apply. I mean, it's just like if you said, and I'll just use the total opposite. If you said, no, my focus is I want to do 150 transactions a year with first-time home buyers and millennials, and I'm going to focus on those geographic markets where those homes are. Those are a whole different set of problems or opportunities or issues and a whole different subset of socioeconomic demographics, right? That the things that appeal to a millennial don't appeal to, a person that is a boomer, right? And so you're starting from scratch defining that. And that's why, if we go way back, when I said you got to really define who I'll go back to the, if you really define who it is that you want to do this slide, if you really define who it is you want to do business with, and you say, okay, it's a first-time home buyer and they're a millennial, what areas are they going to buy homes in? Where are they? They're probably not sellers, right? You're going to focus more on the buy side because they're first-time home buyers. And so they may be moving up after 2 or 3 years or 5 years, who knows? But primarily, if you're focused on those people and just using that as an example, you want to identify, okay, well, where are they? And then they're probably not members of country clubs, or they might be members of what are the best yoga studios or fitness, or, what are the condos in downtown Denver that have the best fitness studios that are in the building that you part of your HOA fees, or what's included in your HOA fees, or why would you want to buy a fixer upper, or what are some of the issues with the loan products that are out there right now and first time home buyers, and what are those rates? And you'd be really, really focused. A lot of my 50% of my buyers are cash buyers. I don't spend a ton of time creating content around different loan products. Okay. 1031 exchanges I talk about, investment properties for rental income, VRBO and Airbnb and the different property management companies. But it's all the same principles. But Marcus, you're just laying different content on that socio-demographic buyer or seller so that you're appealing to them. You're aligning with their needs. Does that make sense?
It does. The other thought that I had on that was that it seems like when you get into the higher price points, the buyers and sellers in those price points are more open. They want a trusted advisor to help them, whereas in the lower price points, it's more about, I don't know, more deep do-it-yourself type buyers and sellers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So here's a good example, and I know RE Colorado because I'm a member. I'd use it in order to help us with the market reports that we prepare for agents. But in my MLS, which is local, there's a thing called Collaboration Center. Okay, so if the millennials are saying, "Oh, I can set up an account on Realtor.com or Zillow, and I can see all the listings," you might be saying, "Okay, well, let me figure out how I can get them into the fold." And I do this. We have a thing in our MLS called Collaboration Center. So I can set up I'm sure you have the same thing in RE Colorado, where you have a portal. You can create a search criteria, and every time a new property comes into that criteria, then it automatically sends them an email notification or a text message. So play to their strength. The millennial demographic is going to be on their phones all day long. You want to be focused on, oh, well, I have this tool that is, the Coldwell Banker. I don't know what the replacement for Zap is, but whatever the Coldwell Banker tool is, or the RE Colorado tool, or whatever, but you brand it as your tool that you're going to give them access to, because unless they are working with you as the agent, they're not going to get access to this. So you kind of get them in the fold, and they can share their favorites, or you can communicate maybe on that platform with them, and you might be able to wean them off of some of these other platforms, for example, and then that's your value add, and you become an expert of that portal, that platform. Maybe there's a chat capability, within the platform, so they don't have to go off of there to text or email or whatever. But I would find those things. It's just like everything else. It's like, what are their interests? What are their wants and needs? And where do they show up? If they're showing up online, you can figure out what the keywords are, what they're searching for, what the areas they want to do business in. And it might be you might be moving from just, and most of millennials, and Shelby will agree with this, are not using Facebook. So it's Instagram, it's Snapchat, it's, I don't even know the other one. So at the lower end of what are the other ones, Shelby, that they would probably be on? Shelby, you're muted.
Hey, could I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Chris, I have to run to a phone call, but Marcus, a couple things that Mark Reuter and I were talking yesterday, and one thing he did ask me that about kind of the high-end client, and I told him that I really didn't pick being in the luxury market. It's just kind of my past history. I was a new home salesman. The last two neighborhoods were more higher end. So it just kind of was a natural fit for me. When I started, I followed Louie's lead and just kind of reached out to those markets. So I agree with Chris that it really could be any market that you wanted. And then second of all, I think Mark had a good question for me yesterday as well. He just said, "Hey, Jeff, all of this stuff is available with Coldwell Banker, and all the systems are here." And I said, yes, I know that. And I said, when Ryan and I, when we started with Chris and Shelby 2 years ago, we told ourselves the same thing, that, hey, we can do this ourselves. But the difference is we had been with Coldwell Banker for years, 7 years, and we weren't consistently doing it. So we just said to ourselves that we need help. We need their expertise, but we also need their just their deadlines, them kind of kicking us in the rear end to do this every month. And it's so much more consistent to what we're doing now. You know, every month we have those 4 posts on social media. Our website is so much better than what it was. So it's a matter of doing it or not doing it. And we've been really pleased with it. We just signed up again for 2021. And of course, too, we worked with Shelby. We knew her. We trusted her. We knew of Chris's success. They're Coldwell Banker people. We trusted them. So we've been very happy.
Thanks.
So thanks, guys. I got to run to a phone call.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
Jeff.
that. Jeff, have an awesome day.
Appreciate
And
it.
I'll stop sharing.
Oh, the video might not be on. So I just wanted to jump in and say, I dropped, you know, if you guys want a free copy of the book, I dropped the link to get that book in the chat. I can also email this out. But the book basically dives into further of what Chris spoke about today. All those systems that he talked about, they're outlined in the book. So get the free ebook, and you can kind of just dive deeper, get those details. And then from there, you know, you also have the option to get the physical copy as well. So feel free to do the ebook or the physical copy. I think you just have to pay for shipping. We give it to you for free. So up to you based on what you're interested in. But that should be a good resource too if you kind of need a refresher on some of these things and wanted to dive deeper.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's just me and Michael now, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
I do have a copy, and I'm going to dig.
Oh, awesome.
into it, so thank you.
Yes, yeah, I sent
All
you.
right, great.
Great.
Hey, would you put it, Marcus? Put it on my desk. You know where it is.
Sorry, you kind of cut out a little bit, but I'll reach out to you, Michael, separately, and I can also send you a copy as well.
And I'm sorry, while I have you captive, I couldn't get on until 9 o'clock, so I missed half of it. But it sounds like there's an opportunity for some cross marketing. My wife is a lender, and as far as content goes, it sounds like there might be a good fit for both of us. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm going to dig into it. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, you have a great resource right there in your wife, and so that's a huge, you know, and I'm sure there's some opportunities there for you as well.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Very good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much. Feel free to reach out as well. Our email is just realestatesystemsecrets@gmail.com too. So.
All right.
Great. Thank
Awesome.
you so much.
All right.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.